Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dodson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 244 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dodson, and welcome back to the show. In this episode, we are going to bring a special guest on board. I've been really looking forward to this for a while. We got a chance to actually sit down with John Krieger of Krieger Barrels and actually do an interview in person. It was really special. It was a lot of fun. So I got a chance to go down to and was invited to the PA Gunsmithing School. And Jamie, who runs the program down there, asked if I would like to come down and speak with the students a little bit. It's something that we did a couple years ago as well. And John Krieger was scheduled to speak there as well as Sharon. And the three of us got a chance to talk with students a little bit, but then actually sat down and did an interview. Now, I was planning on trying to interview John. I mean, that was sort of my main goal, but also a really cool opportunity to get like a really nice roundtable conversation going on with inviting Sharon, who is a gunsmith in her own right and has done a lot of custom stock working, and Jamie, who runs the PA Gunsmithing School down there. A really nice opportunity to sit down and talk with all of them and ask questions and really try to get some questions over to John that they're looking forward to asking him over all the years. Now, I've had a chance to speak with John many times at shows and other events, but the problem with the shows and events like that is just you're so overwhelmed with everybody else that's there and everything else that's going on. It's really hard to actually have a real 5 or 10 minute conversation with anybody. And so this was really nice. All the students are left for the day, broke out all the podcasting equipment, sat down and had a good conversation. So looking forward to this for a while. Ought to be a great podcast. It's going to be a little bit longer. Hope you enjoy it. He is a Masterclass builder with a lot of great advice on a lot of variety of subjects. So thanks for tuning in. Without further ado, here we go. Before we get started, I do want to say a quick thank you to TriggerTech. Now, TriggerTech is the maker of fine rifle triggers. They, in my mind, are one of the safest triggers on the market, one of the easiest to install, and one of the easiest to adjust. So we recommend them for all of our custom rifles that we sell here for that reason. So if you want to upgrade your rifle and you like to do it with a really high-quality trigger, you can stop over to triggertech.com. That's triggertech.com today. We'd also like to thank MDT, maker of a lot of great chassis, from the entry-level Oryx, which we feel is one of the best sub-$1,000 chassis on the market, right up to the ACC Elite. Really a wide variety of different stocks and chassis that they've made over the years that allow shooters to actually get the stocks to fit them well, give them a nice selection, including the J. Allen, which is one of my favorites. So if you stop over to MDT Tech, look at their fine selection. It is a great upgrade for your factory or custom rifle. That's mdttech.com, mdttech.com. So we're going to try to keep the introduction pretty short. It was a great interview. Looking forward to sharing it with you all. So without further ado, let's get started in the interview. John Krieger, Jamie, and Sharon at the Pennsylvania Gunsmithing School. Well, we got a special guest today. We are down at the Pittsburgh Gunsmithing School here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we were invited down to join John Krieger. We have Sharon Farmer and Jamie Wotasik. Jamie invited us down to talk to some of the students, and I had spoken with Rebecca about wanting to interview John for the podcast. And I thought this was maybe a great opportunity to do both, come down and meet everybody here and talk with the students a little bit. And super excited to have John on and everybody here talk a little bit about what they do in the gunsmithing. So, John, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. I feel welcome.
And Sharon, same thing?
Thank you. And my name is Sharon Farmer Dress. So I'm known both ways. So.
Awesome. Before we get started, if you guys, and Jamie, same thing, welcome. If you wouldn't mind just a couple minutes, just a bit about your background so people know who you are. I mean, obviously, we all sat here today for a couple hours talking with students and got to know each other. But Sharon, if you wouldn't mind, ladies first, just a little bit about your history, because you have been around the gun world for a while.
Yes. I graduated from gunsmithing school in 1982, way back in the last century. So I ended up going to the Custom Gunmakers Guild's second show, and that was in 1986. Was their second show they had in Las Vegas. And I ended up joining the guild in 1988, showing my work to be judged to become a guild member. And I did stock work and metal work, and we ended up getting into the wood business, my late husband, Paul Dressel, and I.
John, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
John Krieger, of course, is the founder of Krieger Barrels, has so much tribal knowledge in the barrel making industry. And if I can say so, I still think probably makes the best barrel in the world, but I'm a little biased. So, John, a little bit about how long you've been making barrels.
It started in 1982. My dad had a contract machine shop, so I was in there actually when I was in grade school. He had messing around with projects and so forth. So I had some machining background by the time I went into the barrel business.
And you're retired, but now you get to work hard on things you want to do?
Yeah, my son bought the business. He's been in it for about 25 years and very, very capable. I sold the business to him, so now I can come in and work on crackpot projects that I come up with and rebuilding, upgrading the machinery and tooling and things like that.
That is awesome. And you have the option to go.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then, Jamie, you've been with the gunsmithing school down here. Let you introduce yourself. You run the program. Is that correct?
I am the director of instruction here at the Pennsylvania Gunsmith School. Yes, I've been here about 8 years, but I graduated the school 23 years ago.
And a lot of people don't know how old this school is and actually how many students are here.
That's a great question. The school started in 1949. We typically house about 60 to 70 students at any time. We start about 50 to 60 a year, and it's been a full-time 16-month program its whole life.
And customers from all over the country or farther?
Yeah, so we got students from all 50 states. We almost always have an international student or two, and they come from all over.
And I got a chance to walk through with Jamie. We were here before speaking with students, and then we'll go back to why we're here today and just how well-rounded their program is and all the things that they teach them. It's not just, here's one thing and send them off, but if you've ever interested in gunsmithing, it's such a well-rounded school, well-thought-out program. And for less than 2 years, I think it's really squared away. You have invited all of us here and had John and them come in and speak in for students. So what were John and them here for today?
Yeah, it's a real honor for us to be able to host our program advisory committee, which is made up of industry professionals like John Krieger here and Sharon and Andy from Krieghoff will be here, Brownells. We have a whole big team of industry professionals that's not just Pennsylvania Gunsmith School people that really give good feedback on the school and the program and the direction that we should be going, how the industry is shaped, and this is the way that happens.
So, John, if you wouldn't mind, I've got some really good questions for you. People ask all the time, especially from everybody that builds rifles, like, when are you going to make barrels? When are you going to make actions? And I always tell them that I have no interest in making a rifle barrel because there is just so much tribal knowledge in making a great barrel. And I would like maybe to explain to you, the listeners, about what got you into making barrels and just the path that you went down to making what's basically, I think, some of the best barrels in the world today. But what got you started into thinking about making a barrel?
Well, actually, the long version of it, back in the early 50s, Disney had a TV show, a series about Davy Crockett, and I fell in love with those long, beautiful Pennsylvania rifles, the Kentucky rifles, smoke coming out of both ends of the barrels. So anyway, my dad had a machine shop, so I figured we maybe could make one. I didn't know you could buy them, and if I did, I couldn't get enough money off to put together to buy one anyway. So anyway, we could figure out how to make just about anything on it except the barrel. We couldn't even see how you could drill a hole in something 50 inches, 40 inches long or whatever. So I got, somehow or another, I came across this book called Advanced Gunsmithing by F.C. Vickery. And one of the things they purported to teach you in it was how to make barrels. So anyway, I think if I had that book today and I wanted to learn how to make barrels, I still wouldn't know how. I mean, because the guy that wrote it didn't know how. But anyway, then I got into competitive shooting in the early 70s and met Boots Obelmeyer, and that kind of refreshed the interest in making barrels. And he eventually led me on to he was always trying to bring people into the barrel business because there was a lot of availability or customers or whatever that weren't getting satisfied. There weren't enough good barrels being made. So he was only a one-man shop. He's only going to, nick the market a little bit. So he was trying to get other people into it, and he was talking to me about it off and on. And we were in kind of a recession in the early 80s, and I started actually thinking seriously about making barrels. And he led me on to my first equipment, and then at nights and weekends, I rebuilt the machinery that I got, and then learned how to make them, basically self-taught, I guess, and whatever I could get out of books.
Now, at the time, was your dad still running the machine shop?
Yeah, I was still doing that during the day, and then, like I said, nights and weekends, learning how to make barrels.
And how important do you think it was that both you and your dad were machinists before you tried to figure this out?
It was definitely a help. I mean, if you had to learn machining and then learn how to make barrels, I mean, that was just extend the learning curve that much further. So it was definitely a positive.
And as you went through the years in making the barrels, how many aha moments do you think you've had over your career?
Well, the first one was when I rifled my first barrel. Actually, before that was gun drilling. That was something, like I said, we couldn't figure out years ago how to drill a hole 40 inches long. And I remember I finally got the gun drilling machine I got was in the worst condition of any of the machines I had, and it took quite a bit of rebuilding. And finally, it was about 11 o'clock at night. I had the thing ready to drill. I didn't have any braces for the drill set up, but I had a piece of steel, and I put it in there and started drilling, and I was just hanging onto the drill so it wouldn't bow, and didn't have any idea what kind of oil pressure to run, what kind of feed and speed to use or whatever. And I was kind of the whole 20 minutes it took to drill this chunk of steel I had. I was waiting for it to come out the side somewhere. But then all of a sudden the oil came out the end, and I took it out of the machine. It was right in the middle of the bar. And wow. So I stopped at my neighbor's on the way across the street, because he's the one that got me into the competitive shooting to begin with. And I showed it to him. And he looked at it and he says, "Where's the rifle?" I'm a ways away from that, Joe.
And did you eventually rifle that barrel?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, it wasn't actually a barrel. It was it wasn't barrel steel, so I didn't want to use it for a barrel. But I did save it. I stamped the date on it, and I saved it. And no, the first barrel I did shoot, not the very first one. I think it was the third one. There still was learning curve after I had the barrel rifled, but.
And a couple questions around the table. I'm going to come back to John. Sharon, you have industry experience in machining from the way I heard you with your talks. And then you got into the stock making industry with like really nice woods and understanding the concepts of how to make it and making really beautiful pieces of work for rifles. Is that sort of what your expertise was?
Well, I really liked the stock work, and I did the metal work, and I did polishing. I did a lot of different things. It was really hard for me in the stock work to begin with, because the school I went to, they didn't teach any checkering. So I'm at a very high level skill at inletting and shaping the stock and sanding it out. And I did super good work with that. Then I'm at level 1, checkering. Then I had Paul Dressel beside me, who was one of the best checkerers in the world. And he was good at teaching, but he wasn't good at teaching because he didn't have a lot of patience. And so it was hard.
And you still have a business, so you still make stocks today.
No, Paul died in January of 2018, and after his death, I closed the shop down.
Is your website still up, though?
My website's up. I still sell the gun stock wood and still have a lot of wood. I still sell the grip caps that I actually used to make, but now I have somebody make them. And I have the triggers that Paul came up with, the Model 70 trigger for Mausers.
And then, Jamie, you brought all this together here. So they come in and everybody spoke with students today, a little bit about what they did in the past and what they do, and some maybe career advice. But can you tell everybody sort of why everybody's here? And then I think you guys have some stuff going on tomorrow with you guys are working with the school.
Yeah, we invite the industry professionals in. This is known as our program advisory committee meeting, which is annual. And they come, they get to introduce themselves to the students. You know, the 16-month program allows most of them to see these people at least once, if not twice, in the time that they're here. But they get to ask questions. They get to hear the experiences like they're sharing right now, where we're learning about the beginning of Krieger barrels and everything that Paul and Sharon did. And it's really beneficial what they are able to take away, because this isn't something that's in a gunsmithing book. A lot of this is what lives in their head. And sometimes the only way that you get to hear about that, and same with what you're sharing with the students, is by being at the school at the right time.
Yeah. And there's so much tribal knowledge. I said one of the biggest dangers that we all live in, especially in the gunsmithing world and building custom rifles and all that, is, the tribal knowledge of everybody that's led in front of us, if it's not passed on, it'll be lost. There's so much value of like sitting down and talking with people that's been doing it for so long, and all the things they've learned over the years and the mistakes that they have made that maybe save somebody else making the same several times as well. And transitioning over to making your barrels, when did it go full time? Like, how long did you do it part time until you decided that this is what you really wanted to do?
Well, it kind of took off a lot faster than I wanted to, and I would say probably about a year. The job shop business was going down. We hadn't really modernized, hadn't sought new customers and so forth. So I was spending more time with the barrels, and it just seemed to take. I ran one ad one time it was called Shotgun News at that time, and I got 168 replies from the thing, which I answered on I printed out a brochure, you might call it a brochure, on a something or another 64 computer. I don't remember the full name of it or whatever, and sent it out. And the orders just started coming in. And so within about a year, I would say, I phased out the old job shop and just did the barrels full time.
Now, was your dad still with you at the time? Was it still your family-owned business as far as you were still working for your dad, or did you take the whole business over by that point?
No, I formed a separate corporation, but my dad was, I have to say, was relatively against it. And so I formed a separate corporation so it wouldn't affect positive or negative his business,
Mm-hmm. And what separates Krieger from everybody else out there? If you're meeting somebody the first time and might not know anything about barrels, what separates your barrels away from pretty much most of the barrels that are on the market today? Why a Krieger?
I don't know if I can answer that directly, because I don't. I think of anybody that's serious about making the barrels to make the best barrels they can, not approaching it from a money standpoint. When I went into it, I was a competitive shooter, and I knew how important a good shooting barrel was. And I just decided to make the best barrel I could make, and hopefully the best barrel ever, and charge what I had to and let the chips fall where they may. If you think you don't want it. And at the same time, I had to, be somewhat competitive with button rifle barrels, which are a lot faster weight of rifles. So margins were thinner, but still was, the way I was going to do it. As far as the quality part goes, I think the philosophy that we had was more just to eliminate all the variables in everything, in the machines, in the tooling, whether it seemed like it would be important or not, make sure it's concentric on axis and so forth. So if you run into a problem, you don't have to go through everything to try to find it.
So you brought up one thing I want to just have you explain better to the customers. I don't think a lot of people understand how much work goes into a cut rifle barrel versus a button rifle barrel and the time it takes, and how that plays into the quality of the finish of the barrel. So you did a great job explaining it in the class, and I probably should have recorded it, but explain to people the difference between the two and just how much more time it actually takes, because making cut rifle barrels is not faster.
Yeah, first of all, I think all barrel makers are at the mercy of the steel. It's not necessarily homogeneous and uniform through its entire length. And when we cut rifle the barrel, we take out about a tenth of a half of a thousandth per pass of the barrel, and per groove or whatever. And when you button rifle a barrel, it's maybe 1 to 3 minutes. Everything's done at once, so it's much more sensitive to the steel. Button barrels are very, very good. But I think if you take an average of, say, 1,000 cut rifle barrels and 1,000 button rifle barrels, you'll have much more of them cut rifle barrels getting into the really good accuracy inside the bell-shaped curve, for example. And I think the reason is because when we cut rifle, they're taking out a 1/10.5. The system is just not sensitive to the inconsistency of the steel. What I found to be the most critical part of the barrel is how uniform the twist is. And that's the problem that the button barrel will run into, is that it'll change the twist with the different consistencies in the steel. Whereas, like I said before, we're taking such a light cut, it's not sensitive to it. So it'll just be more uniform in the twist. And the reason I pick on the twist is because I've seen barrels with bore and groove dimensions all over the map, and they still shot very well, but they won't shoot well if the twist is inconsistent.
To go back to the hours, how many hours does it take to make a button rifle barrel versus a cut rifle barrel? Because I think for me that was pretty shocking as well.
Yeah, there's some extra operations in the button rifle barrel, like stress relieving in an oven and so forth. But as far as the actual rifling time, button will go through the barrel in 1 to 3 minutes. Cut rifling, depending upon the number of lands and groove, from a half an hour to maybe over an hour.
And that's per barrel. So it's significant.
Yeah.
And so when people look at the cost difference between, a button rifle barrel and a cut rifle barrel, they sometimes will think, wow, that's just so much cheaper, or they can be made cheaper. And there's ways they can shortcut that and make it faster and then make a lesser quality barrel, of course. But to think that you're spending nearly sometimes 20 or 30x more time cutting that rifling and what that means into the finished product. To bounce around the room just a little bit, Jamie, how do you approach, you have everybody here make something for their project. Do any of them choose to build bolt action rifles? And then your conversation with them with both machining of the barrels and when they're selecting them, anything that you give them advice on?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to give everyone exposure to everyone's theory, right? John's theory on single point cut barrels versus button versus cold hammered forged. We want everyone to know what's out there and what the theory is behind it. In the machining course, they do chambering and barrel fitting, so they learn that. And then in the fourth semester, they have a custom rifle making course where they will pick a barrel of their choosing, contour, length, caliber, and twist, and they'll chamber it to a receiver. They'll put it in a stock and finish it. And they're essentially making a custom rifle based on what they chose was the best options for them. Some of that is time, some of that is price,
right?
But performance is always the end goal for a gunsmith.
And how many hours do you think through the course year do you give them on machining?
Each semester, and there's 4 of them, is 624 hours. And the bulk of third semester is learning machining, which is manual lathes and mills here. And a portion of that is the barrel fitting and chambering course, which applies to the fourth semester parts. But a significant amount of time is machining because that is one of the heavy backbones of gunsmithing.
Yeah, I think he would, I don't want to say the number, but it was hundreds of hours.
Hundreds of hours, yes.
Yeah, and that's
Several
a really
months.
big deal. That's not just like, here, let me give you a demonstration and we're going to cut this today.
Yeah, I think you could teach somebody to do it standing over them and walk them through it, but we're actually teaching them how to use a lathe and a mill so that they could do any of those machining techniques that they may find useful.
That's really, really important. And then, so John, I got to circle back around. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions.
Sure.
If you had the choice to do it again, would you get into barrel making again?
Oh, absolutely. And I would have done it a lot sooner, I'll tell you.
All right.
It's a whole lot better than the job shop business because you're making it one thing, one product, and you can just refine it to the nth degree.
What was the hardest part as you were growing to scale, to start making? Because I think I heard you tell the students you started out, you're only making 5 barrels a week.
Well, I was doing everything, like the shipping, the answering the phone. The answering the phone was probably the worst part. Sucking up time and so forth. But the business just grew by itself, and as it grew, I just couldn't do it all myself anymore. So I had to start training people to do some of the operations and so forth. They never could answer the phone and answer the questions or anything, like that. But, I could have them, at least something would be being done while I was on the phone. And it just kept increasing from there, more employees and so forth, training them. But when we were looking for employees, we weren't necessarily looking for ones that were real strongly mechanically inclined or real experienced in any kind of machining. We were more looking for the right attitude. We were looking for somebody that doesn't say this is good enough. Looking for somebody who's going to say, well, there must be a way to make it better. That's what we wanted. It's hard to find.
At what point did you sit back and maybe panic a little that now you've got a big company?
Yeah, that's for sure. Because I would probably, in a sense, prefer to just work by myself. But you can't do that in any practical way, in your own business like that. I don't know. I would say to the point where I felt like I achieved what I wanted was it was a bench rest publication, but called Precision Shooting, and Ferris Pendle was being interviewed in there by an author, and he's was a kind of a living legend because he was one of the Ps in the 6 PPC cartridges, which is probably 90% of the bench rest shooters shoot because it's such a superb cartridge. Anyway, he was talking about barrels at one point and said the cut rifles barrels he always felt were the best, and presently that the best barrels were Kriegers, and perhaps they're the best ever. And when I read that, I said, "Why, that was my goal."
Mission accomplished. And then
Yeah.
you have handed down the torch. You have the next generations running the business. How many team members do you now have at Krieger? How many employees work there, if you don't mind sharing?
I'm not sure exactly myself, but it's normally around 35 people. And I would say there was probably 3 key people there besides my son, Mark, that he depended on for different functions.
And then Mark and Rebecca are running the company now.
Yeah.
And what's it like giving up the reins a little bit?
No, I was fine with that. I didn't want to push it because it had to be something that somebody wanted to do. Mark originally had asked to work there, and I wasn't going to try to push it on him or whatever. So, and he's a brilliant barrel maker, and he's a far better manager than I was. I was always more of a shop person, but Mark is pretty much all of it. See, that way, what you were alluding to earlier about passing this information on, there's a way to do it. Otherwise, you sell the business and you have to train them. You have to give up all your secrets to somebody, which is fine. That's what you have to do. But having it in the family yet is a far better situation.
Absolutely. And then what I'd like to do, I know it's getting a little bit late. I like to go around the table just one more time and one shout out question to everybody. I just wrap it up for the day. But I'll start with you, Sharon. You were speaking with new students today. These are people that are the next generation gunsmiths. They're going to be out there looking for all these different jobs. And I think what I liked a lot about your presentation was telling them that within gunsmithing, there's a lot of job options. It's not just here's what you got to do. But if you were talking to the next generation coming up through, giving them advice to get started, anything that you would tell them?
Well, people don't think of gunsmithing as all the careers within the career of gunsmithing, all the different careers, all the things you learn. And I don't know of another field where you have so many different fields. You have the machining, like doing a machine shop. You have the welding, you have the woodworking, you have the wood finishing, the metal finishing, gun repair. If you're working for yourself, you got to be able to run an office. And it don't matter how good a work you're able to do, is you have to be able to promote yourself and get your name out. And I just try to really express that to them.
Jamie, you're in the trenches.
Yeah, I mean,
so how you've been doing it a while. What do you say to the person that has a potential interest in this industry, or like advice that you give them to start making a decision of whether or not, a school like this is correct for them?
I think it all starts with being a hands-on learner. There's lots of ways to learn different things. There's good gunsmithing books out there. John tried to learn how to make a barrel from a book. But if you can come to a place like this where the industry professionals are here to teach you hands-on, the hours are at the bench, you're not focusing on gen ed, but really just gunsmithing, then you put yourself in the right position to have some success if it's a real career you want to get. We have students as young as 18 and as old as 60 that come to the program from different backgrounds, a lot of them veterans. But the drive, the personality that John was talking about, being the right person that wants a high quality of work to go out, that's really important. That's what we're looking for. And those people find us.
And just a follow-up question to that, what separates Pittsburgh Gunsmithing School apart? Like where do you guys feel like you fit, and where do you think you're the best, and what would be your, like your, not your elevator sales pitch, but your pull from, the couple other schools that are out there?
I think the Pennsylvania Gunsmith School brings a reputation to the industry because of the length of our program, the amount of hours that's strictly hands-on gunsmith learning, and the ability to network with the greats like this. I mean, Sharon's given back, John's here, you're here. I'm in a position where I got this great networking opportunity, and we definitely use it. We got a lot of support. A lot of our graduates have done really big things. They give back to the program as well. My boss, Bob Thacker, he's 100% interested in the students and the students' success. Being an accredited school, we have a lot to offer.
Yeah. All right. So, John, I've got just a couple questions for you since I only got you for a couple more minutes. What is your favorite rifle caliber of all time?
Well, I fell in love with a 375 H&H when I was in high school and bought one. But the caliber 375 I've always loved because you can do everything with it. You can use it for elephant hunting, where a 500 nitro might be better, but you can also shoot a les buck at 400 yards, which you can't do that with a 500 nitro, or not very well, whatever. But I think the best 375 cartridge today is that 375 Ruger. It'll do everything the H&H will do. It fits in a standard action. It doesn't have any useless things like a belt on it or anything like that. So that would be my favorite cartridge. That's the gun I'm currently using. I chambered in at a pre-64 Model 70.
Another question for you would be, is you're a varmint hunter, and I always find varmint hunters to be a unique breed on accuracy. If you had to pick the two between varmint hunting and 1,000-yard, what would it be?
Well, I don't have to pick, first of all.
All right, fair enough. So
I would say probably the varmint hunting because there's no win or losing with it. You're not in a hot leather jacket and all that sort of stuff. I guess nowadays with I forget what they call it, but they shoot with a rest on the ground and so forth. We shot with a sling, and it would be hot, and you're in a leather jacket and a sling and everything. It was hard work, and but it was always very interesting. It was a lot of fun. But varmint hunting prairie dog shooting is a lot more relaxed.
to a young shooter that's thinking about getting into shooting and in your career over your shooting, what would be some accuracy tips or something that you would give them to say, if you want to learn how to shoot and shoot well, go do this? Where would they start?
Well, I think one of the things that's never considered in shooting a rifle on your shoulder is you have to repeat your position. You're not going to shoot accurately if you don't repeat your position, particularly a gun that's going to recoil. 22s are more forgiving in that respect. 22 rimfire, I mean. If you shoot we used to shoot basically 06s or 308s or whatever, you have to repeat the position because the bullet starts forward in the barrel, the gun starts back. And if you're not repeating it, and you see that at 1,000 yards, if you don't repeat your position, you don't get a flyer, usually elevation, up or down. And that's probably the most important part. And then, of course, trigger control.
Mm-hmm.
I never did really learn good trigger control. I'm sort of a controlled snapper, I would call it. I don't jerk the rifle, but when the shot's there, the gun goes off, which has helped a lot with hunting. But normally you're supposed to squeeze and the gun will surprise you when it goes off. That's never worked for me.
If they're interested in building rifle barrels or the next generation coming through, any advice you would give them starting out?
Well, yeah, particularly starting out, I very luckily, very fortunately, early in my life, not a barrel making career, but period, early in my life, I ran across a self-help series by Earl Nightingale called Lead the Field. And it was just, I would call it a way to plan your life, a logical way to plan your life. But there's one thing in there that I think if you're going to go into some kind of a business is pure gold. He said your success in life will be directly dependent upon three things: the demand for what you do, how well you do it, and how few others are. And it is just, you can't argue with the logic. It is hard to figure that out, but it was absolutely perfect for me because there was a demand for the barrels. I was a machinist. I had the desire to make a very good barrel, and there were very few others were.
Yeah, so just at the perfect place at the perfect time.
Exactly.
But also the skilled hands to do it.
Yeah.
As well. So thank you, everybody, for coming and joining us here. I'll send everybody a link to the podcast when it's all done. But thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us here on the podcast. We really appreciate it and looking forward to maybe inviting you all back on sometime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having us.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. It was a lot of work to take all the equipment down and set it all up. It was really nice to actually sit down and have a conversation with a group of people. We got running really late at the end of the day to get the podcast in. Of course, the students went home. So trying to get everything set up quickly and efficiently and get all the mics dialed in was a little bit on the fly. So hopefully the audio turned out great. You guys got a chance to enjoy it. But really, Masterclass gun builder. And I always find it interesting to dig into their story and their processes. And there's usually more behind it than what most people realize. So we use Krieger barrels here as our number one go-to barrel for anybody looking to build a custom rifle for many reasons, some of which John talked about. So in full disclosure, I do want to share that Krieger Barrel is a sponsor and an advertiser here on the show. We had asked them when we first started the show many years ago if they would like to advertise. We only allow people to advertise on the show whose products we use and believe in. We do not allow any type of advertisement in any way, shape, or form of just any random product that somebody wants to put on here. That said, they are, and full disclosure, they are, advertising partners of ours, and for good reason. We're very proud of it. They're a great company. They offer a lot of really good programs now called Krieger Direct and some in-stock inventory that you can sort of scroll through and try to find something possibly in stock that you can build your rifle with right away. And then, of course, you can always order custom barrels from them as well. So you can look at Krieger Barrels, and you want to take a peek at their website. It's KriegerBarrels.com. That's KriegerBarrels.com. And again, thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us here. And thank you to John and Sharon and Jamie for taking the time to sit down and have a nice conversation with me. So if you would like to leave a comment down below, or if you would like to leave a rating, or if you would like to share this podcast, we really appreciate it. It helps our standings a lot. It means a lot to us here. But I want to thank everybody for taking the time to tune in and stick around this long. My name is Jamie Dodson. I'm your host, and you're listening to Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.